Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It's Tuesday, March 31st, the last day of March. It's Tuesday. That means it's time for the Power Hour. We've got the team here from Pittsburgh Power, Bruce and Eric. We're going to bring them in right now and get started. Phone lines are open. Jump in and join us. 855-950-3835. Bruce, Eric, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Kevin.
All right. Did you guys make it home okay?
Yeah, it was all day Sunday for me, and the news media lied again. They said that there's going to be huge lines at the airports. And when I got to the Fort Myers airport, there were 6 people in front of me. Whenever I walked past security in Louisville, there was 0 lines. Whenever I got on that plane at Louisville on Sunday morning, I think there was 5 in front of me. And then Debbie wanted tea at Starbucks, and she waited in a line of 22 people. So Starbucks had a bigger line than PSA did.
So my experience was the same.
Yet,
I got to Portland, and I was through from the beginning of security till the complete end, 4 minutes. That's how long it took me. On the way back at Louisville, I think it was under a minute. Like, there was nobody in front of me. I just walked right straight up, handed him my ID. That took about 10 seconds, put my stuff on the belt, and I was through. It was that easy.
what day did you leave?
I left Saturday morning.
Oh, that's why we didn't see you Saturday.
Yeah, I had to go. 2 days was enough this time. I had to go. So, yeah, but I spent all day Saturday traveling. Took me all day to get home. Which is, yeah, but no lines. Now, I will say this, but this is always like this. One of the worst airports in the country, I swear, is Phoenix. So I get to Phoenix on the way back. I flew through Phoenix, and all of their gates are way too small. So it's just, you feel like sardines in there. It's so bad. And then I get to Portland, and it's like a ghost town, and there's room everywhere. But Phoenix was kind of a hassle. Luckily, I didn't have to stay there long. But it wasn't security. I mean, because you're flying through, connecting, so you don't have to mess with security. It's just Phoenix, their gates are too small for their flights. It was crowded. Other than that, it was a pretty much of a non-event. It just took me a long time to get home. I'm going to start today because while we were at the show, there was an announcement made by Trump and the administration. And one of the things I want to say is Trump likes to think out loud. He doesn't always, he says stuff that he hasn't really thought through yet. I do it a lot in the air. I talk about it all the time. That's what leads people to think he says stuff that's so outrageous or, whatever. He just kind of thinks out loud. The last example of this a couple of weeks ago was the administration announced that they were doing something. I'm just going to say it like that. They were doing something with 200,000 non-domiciled CDL holders. And everybody thought they were taking them off the road. But that's not what they did at all. That's kind of what it sounded like until you read the details. And the details were they just are going to stop those 200,000 drivers from renewing their license. That's a big difference. Some of those may have that license for 5 more years. They didn't take their license away. They just stopped them from renewing it. But almost everybody I saw on social media completely misunderstood it. Now, here's another problem with this administration and when Trump makes statements like this. Some of these things have to go through processes. Some of them might have to go to Congress. There's going to have to be, the law has to be written still. And a lot of times we're speculating on stuff that isn't done. But a lot of times they announce it like it is. Here's the one they announced while we were at the show, and almost everybody is getting it wrong. Did you see the announcement about the DEF sensors?
Yeah, actually,
I thought I heard a little bit about it, and Eric and I talked about it yesterday, and Eric's going to talk about that. But let's go ahead.
Let me give you my take on this, because I may or may not be interpreting it correctly, but I did a lot of reading on this. I saw people posting immediately about no DEF anymore. One came out of Freight Waves, and the meme was, on one side they show farmers and truck drivers, and it's a sunny day and everybody's happy, and it says no DEF. And then the picture next to it says DEF, and it's storming and everybody's, angry. And that makes it sound like DEF is going away. And I heard a lot of people say, oh, you can just delete your system now, and we're not going to have that damn DEF anymore. That is absolutely not what happened. It's not even close. Your DEF system is staying. You still need to use DEF fluid. Deletes are still illegal and can cost you like $40,000 a day in fines, potentially. What happened was, currently, and Eric, help me out with this one if I get it wrong, currently we have a DEF quality sensor in the system. And it is supposed to tell us whether or not the DEF is correct and will function correctly. So if maybe it got too much water in it, or maybe a driver put diesel fuel in there somehow, it would sense those things, and then it derates. And the derate is fairly instant, and it's pretty extreme. And that's what they were trying to solve. They were trying to solve the derate issue. They are not saying we're getting rid of DEF. So instead of a DEF quality sensor, my understanding is we're using a NOx sensor. And I think we're using it kind of like we use the pressure differential, checking NOx before and after. And if the system is reducing NOx, then you're fine. If the system starts to malfunction, and it still could, what they're saying is the DEF quality sensor was just a bad design. A lot of false positives, a lot of derates when you didn't need them. It was too sensitive. It wasn't measuring the right stuff. So we're putting in a better sensor, is the way I understand this. And if there is a problem, the derate process is very, very different now. From what I understand, you are going to get up to 4,200 miles of usable time. So it even though there's kind of a derate going on, you can still drive the truck. And as far as I know, at full highway speeds, or maybe it slows you down a little. I couldn't find that for sure. But you'll have up to 4,200 miles. There was something about 650 miles and 10 hours before any derate, and then up to 4,200 miles on a mild derate is what they called it. Eric, do I have it right so far?
that's what I've read. Now, I have read a couple other numbers were a little bit off. Like I saw the 4,200, then I saw 5,200 or 5,000, and I saw as little as like 3,900. So it's going to be somewhere in that 4,000 mile range. Just kind of depends on where you're getting your information. But yeah, you're pretty much nailed the 30,000 foot view on this one. Go ahead.
I'm going to take a different approach on this, and I think I'm going to have a lot of people who disagree with me. I'm going to say what nobody's saying. That awful derate that shut you down may have also been protecting you from something far worse. And I think we're going to lose that protection. Because even if something goes wrong now, you're not required to stop. We're not, the problem with the DEF sensors, you may have gotten a lot of false positives, it sounds like. And then you had downtime and you were going through all this for nothing. There was nothing really wrong. So maybe it's going to be more accurate now. Maybe we won't have as many derates, which would be nice. But when you derate, the last thing you should do is keep driving that truck. Think exactly. The way I understand this, your $300 sensor could lead to a $15,000 or $20,000 repair if you just keep driving this thing.
Correct. Yeah. If you have a legitimate problem with the after treatment system, that's where this is going to get tricky here. And you're 100% accurate on that. For all the people out there that have had false readings from this sensor, this is a godsend, no doubt about it. But if you have a legitimate issue with something upstream, because remember, the DEF quality sensor is in the DEF tank, but now it's going to read how much DEF is injected and distributed, and even like the full circle of that system, all off a NOx sensor. And everybody knows that NOx sensors can fail too. So this may create other issues. I don't want to paint like a big positive unicorns and rainbow type picture here, because it may or may not be. For like what you said, the false reading people, this is great. This is going to be a great thing.
Right.
But have a legitimate problem, this may create a little bit more complexity on like our end, like on the repair shop ends. There is a lot more to it. Like from our aspect, the trouble codes are going to get, I think, a little bit more in depth with these. We're probably going to see some code numbers we've never seen before, like a code, I'm just going to make up a number here, like 1728. Like, whoa, never saw that one before. Because now they're going to have to dissect it a little bit further, because the NOx sensor is going to have to do more than just reading the NOx levels. It's going to have to make, well, the ECM is going to have to do more with the NOx sensor reading, I should say. It's going to have to make different decisions on what and when is moved and placed and injected, and when. It's just going to make it a lot more complex that way. But I think this is a step in the right direction. I personally read the 5-page memo on this on the EPA's website, and as of today, all the major manufacturers, Cummins, Detroit, PACCAR, Navistar, and Volvo and Mack, all use the DEF quality sensor. There is only one engine manufacturer that already incorporates the NOx sensor for distributing the DEF, and I cannot find who that manufacturer is. If anybody knows, I'm kind of curious now. I went down this rabbit hole for a long time yesterday, and even when I got home.
Yeah, me too.
I was really intrigued by this. This is really interesting to me, and my wife called me a nerd. Which I am.
Well, you know, I have a basic understanding of how the emission systems work, and I don't work on them all the time. So I kind of asked AI to explain it to me, kind of what might occur. But here's the other thing I want to say. We know human nature, and many people are going to ignore and push their limit on it and fix it after a couple thousand miles. They're not going to put a high priority on it anymore. They're just going to say, oh, yeah, there's a problem, but it's running fine. I've got 3,000 more miles. Here was the explanation that I found on kind of what could occur. So running a diesel truck with a DEF NOx sensor fault triggers a cascading failure pattern where the ECM increases EGR rates and retards injection timing to compensate, dramatically increasing soot production. There's the problem. The engine responds with a process that dramatically increases soot. We've known from day one, the whole problem with emission systems is soot. And this process increases it dramatically. So you start blocking, and from what I understand, many times in this process, the ECM also shuts off regeneration. The engine won't regenerate when there's a fault. Or the DPF, I mean, won't. Go ahead.
If you want to categorize the perfect storm, you just described it. Like what they're doing with this is an oxymoron.
Yes.
I mean, it's all terms of this. So in other words, now we're going to introduce more EGR. We're going to retard the timing, and we are going to shut off the DPFs. So now we have an incubation, like a petri dish for carbon and soot, and it's going to conglomerate and build up everywhere. We're not going to regen it, so it's going to plug up the filters, and we're going to cut the power back on the driver.
And
that is the dumb.
Yeah, and let's add one more thing. The minute that DPF starts to clog, and it's just going to continue to clog, it can't regenerate. There's tons of soot. This is what's going to take out your turbo. All the back pressure. I read something about this, how it forces oil through the seals on the turbo, and that's what's causing a lot of the turbo damage. This, to me, I don't think, maybe we should be cheering the fact that we have a better sensor, but I think allowing 3 or 4 or 5,000 miles on a derate. Now, here's the thing. We're going to educate as many people as we can. Don't be stupid. When you get a derate, go to the shop. I would do everything I had. If I have to deliver the load, maybe I'll go deliver the load. I'm going straight to the shop. We're going to see another case where we have people failing because of ignorance over this, and the people that understand it, it won't be a problem. But this is, I'm not seeing this anywhere. Everybody's just talking, oh, you don't have to have DEF anymore. Oh, we can delete now. No, you can't, you shouldn't. It's a bad idea. But I think the bigger problem is people are going to run these trucks like this.
And two more things to dissect even further on this. Number one, when you get a pain specifically in your chest or your left arm, do you ignore it or do you talk?
That's a good point.
Warning shot that you're giving you. Your truck is taking a warning shot at you, like, hey, there's something wrong. You might want to get this looked at.
Yeah.
And that's where people are going to get in trouble. You're exactly right. The other part of this, too, is what you talked on with turbochargers. I've done a lot of research and some R&D on turbos for the last 16 years since I've been here. It's no secret I'm a nitrous guy. So if any of my friends are listening, yeah, I'm still true to nitrous. Don't worry. But on this stuff, it's a whole different ball game. But that is the number one cause for failure, specifically on VG turbos. Carbon and soot buildup on that actuator gate does not let that mechanical arm move in and out. And what that does is strips out an actuator. And then you need to buy a whole new turbo. Or like what you're saying, the seals on the turbo. Soot and carbon is abrasive. So you would not want to go to the hospital and get an IV with sand in it. That would just be stupid.
Yeah.
The same thing applies here. The same theory applies with your engine oil. Your engine oil in your engine is your bloodline, your lifeline. You do not want anything abrasive in it. And carbon and soot, the dirt, is abrasive. And that's like the biggest reason why max mileage is so important for this. And I'm not trying to get on my max mileage soapbox here, but this is just facts.
Absolutely.
This is something
let's go back over the history, Eric. The very beginning of emissions problems, when you guys were working on it, after the 1 or 2 years where we talked about deletes and then stopped, it was all about cleaning out soot. You developed an engine flush that cleaned out soot. You created a list of sensors that either needed to be cleaned or replaced on a regular basis because they got soot buildup. Then John developed the Dorothy, which was designed to get soot out of the airstream. Then the catalyst is designed so the engine isn't creating as much soot. Every single thing you guys have done over the years to make the emissions better was always focused on soot. That is the problem.
And you just described the evolution of how to make an engine reliable and dependable. We started literally with pipe cleaners and cans of brake cleaner.
I remember.
We were literally taking the Venturi tubes off the EGRs and running pipe cleaners through it, cleaning every single part out. That was and then we had an original engine flush machine. It just flushed out the oil.
I remember. Right.
And it was the diesel force machine where it pumps the soapy solvent foam through the engines. And then the foam goes down in the after treatment system. We do a manual regen, and the heat created from the manual regen will ignite that foam into a steam cleaning. But one thing that doesn't get rid of is the ash content. And that's why we evolved into the DPF alternatives cleaning as well. And now we put the filters out, get all the ash content out. And now with, the max mileage kind of surpassing the Dorothy was the first line of defense because then we could physically see how much was coming out.
Right.
And then once we got the max mileage in there, we were attacking the problem at the root of its cause. We are getting rid of carbon and soot in the combustion chamber.
And one of the cool things, and this was one of the, remember, I did not talk about the catalyst for almost a year. After Bruce, you would come on and talk about it. We'd let the callers talk about it. I just kind of stayed out of the conversation for about a year. I wanted to see. And one of the things that convinced me was the Dorothy. Somebody posted pictures of their Dorothy prior to using catalyst and how often they had to empty the soot. Then they started using the catalyst and the Dorothy was doing almost nothing. That was one of the things that convinced me this is really working.
That's when I got solidity in the product too. Paul Carmine was here. He was one of our test pilots for the catalyst when it was just private label. There was no stickers or anything on the bottle. We just sent him a gallon, said, here, try this, mix it this ratio, give me your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. And then, of course, it became really popular, started rolling out everywhere. And he still has, I'm pretty sure to this day, he still has a Dorothy soot trap on his engine. But about, I want to say it was about a year after he started running the catalyst religiously, he was in our shop getting some work done. I forget what it was now. And we were standing at the front counter talking, and we were discussing about the carbon and soot, and how the engine was performing with the max mileage. And it was still a fairly new product on the market. And he goes, you know what? I haven't taken that Dorothy apart in over a year. There's probably 120,000 miles on it.
Right.
Back, look. Okay.
Yep.
So we walked back, unscrewed the band clamp on the bottom, pulled the cup off. I said, Paul, there's something wrong. He goes, what? I said, there's nothing in there. And he started laughing. He goes, look over here, look over here. There was 2 specks of carbon and soot, literally the size of a grain of rice. And there was, you wiped your finger on there. Now, this was a stainless steel cup for people that don't know what a Dorothy is. It was a stainless steel inline filter, and it was never touched in over a year and 120,000 miles. You could literally pull the 2 grains of rice, throw them in the garbage can, and then you could just barely stain your fingerprints with the soot residue that was on the inside of that stainless steel. That's when I became a firm believer.
Yeah.
No offense, Dr. James, listening, but everybody has to be skeptical.
Oh, I was a big skeptic. Yeah, I was a very big skeptic. And then I was convinced. And I also want to say, that was also the moment where I was thankful for truck emissions.
Yes.
I want truck emissions.
Yes.
I want clean engines. I love these things. So let me tell you what kind of feedback I get when I post this on social media. First off, so my whole point on social media now, I'm going to play the game. I need more clicks and follows because we use social media for marketing. So I got to play the game. So I found a really easy way to get a lot more clicks and comments. All I have to do is put in a really bad AI picture. People lose their mind, but I don't care because the more they click and comment, the bigger my following gets and the more my stuff shows up. So I am in the habit now of putting in goofy AI pics. So I have a guy standing there. When you first look at it, it looks kind of real until you look at the truck. The hood is open. The hood is something's really wrong with the whole hood design. But the firewall is attached to the hood and went with it when the hood opens up. There's some real problems with the picture. But here's the kind of comments I get. Nice fake ass image from a fake ass personality. You couldn't sound more of a shill because of a picture. It's a picture. Wow. Who cares? Did you happen to read the article? Because that's kind of the point. The picture's to get you to stop. Then I want you to read the article. Clearly, who am I being a shill for when I explain that they're going to let you run under a derate more, but you shouldn't? Who am I shilling for here?
Oh, those pesky facts.
Yeah. Yeah. Now listen to this one. This one makes me even crazier. Because I am fighting on the health side of things. I am fighting the fact that drivers are some of the hardest people to detox. And it's getting worse all the time. So I'm glad that we're cleaning up the environment on the road. Listen to this one. Hopefully, more people will start deleting and make enforcement more difficult. Also, undercutting those who play by the rules and force them out of business would be a win for everyone, including consumers. How do consumers win if we start deleting emissions? Does he think the cost of delivering stuff is going to go down? And somehow, the consumers are going to save money? Because that might be the most ignorant take I've ever heard. Nothing about deleting emission systems is going to make the cost of delivering freight go down.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any delete credits on my tax form last year.
Correct.
I don't think they're going to
Right.
do that.
Right. Yeah, but we want more deletes, so it makes enforcement more difficult, and we want to undercut the people that are playing by the rules and put them out of business.
Yeah, that sounds like a really dumb business plan.
Yeah, it does. So don't delete. We finally figured these things out, and they're really, really good. And by the way, these trucks with emissions, Steve Krohn's getting over 12 miles to the gallon. So you can't say it hurts your fuel economy, because it clearly doesn't. They're very clean. We finally have most, if not all, of the problems figured out, and we have solutions. Now is not the time to go backwards.
And if you want proof on this too, and I know a lot of people are on both sides of the fence with this topic, but if you want proof, go to a classic car show. Go see some of these old cars and stand right beside them when they fire them up.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And tell me that doesn't take you down memory lane of like walking down Main Street, Anytown, USA in 1985 or, whatever. That's like when I pass an older car, I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. And it might be something really weird. I think I just mentioned that old Buick I saw last week or 2 weeks ago. And I got by it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot.
I remember that.
And it stinks, Or if you want to come hang out in my garage, I'll fire up the race car. You're more than welcome to stand there for as long as you want, because I guarantee you won't go long.
No, I agree. And,
Eric, when you talk about standing behind cars now, I came from the 50s and 60s when we had oil burners.
Oh, yeah.
And the white smoke would come out, or maybe bluish white would come out like a corkscrew.
Yeah.
And that was, we had guys that when I first was pumping gas in 1965 at a Sinclair station, we had bulk oil. And every night they'd come by and get $1 worth of gas. It was 24 cents a gallon, 24.9, and a quart of bulk oil.
Yeah.
And we automatically put up the hood and added a quart of bulk oil. So
yeah,
we had a front row of cars at my dad's car lot that were like the good ones, and we had the back row that were the inexpensive ones or the cheaper ones. And I remember one guy traded this old, it was a Dodge K car, 2.2.
Oh,
and you were about the oil burners. I mean, how many Chryslers out there you saw, like the minivans, anything with a 2.2 in it?
Yeah,
they were all oil burners. And he said, when I pull into the gas station, I check the gas and fill her up with oil. And I never forgot that.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought I would inform people that DEF is not going anywhere. We're still using it, thankfully. And it is an improvement with the new sensor, but it could also cause issues if you just think it's okay to run that truck thousands of miles with a problem. It's not.
Exactly. I'd like to give my overtake on this, because I spent a lot of time on this yesterday, and then we'll move on to something else, because I know we've been talking about this a while. But this is a big topic, and the way you started it, I'm glad that you worded it the way you did, because a lot of people want to jump the cart in front of the horse. And I've had people call me, email me already, since this speech was made. I saw it in the hotel room down at Louisville Friday morning. I was watching the news, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to get misconstrued, and that's exactly what happened. So first and foremost, there is no deletes or changes to anything of any nature on any emissions truck as of right now. What the facts are is they did rescind the 2009 endangerment finding, which was a legal basis for regulating vehicle emissions. That move eliminated federal greenhouse gas emission standards for vehicles, including trucks through model 2027 and beyond. But in practical terms, it wiped out federal emission mandates tied to climate, CO2, et cetera. But this is still, it's still getting, I don't want to say dismantled, but it's still getting discussed and trying to process for what's new and coming down the pipeline, because the 2027 tier of emissions is here. You are going to see the Cummins with the 48-volt alternator generator, It's going to have the grid heaters inside it, dual SCRs. That is coming down the road. The 2027 NOx rule is separate from the greenhouse gas rules. The rule was not automatically eliminated by the rollback. The EPA has been, though, trying to modify or weaken the DEF-related rules, which we are seeing now, talking about removing derates, keyword is talking, but not outright banning DEF systems. And that's where a lot of people got this twisted around where, oh, we can take DEF off, we don't need it anymore. But the bottom line is DEF systems are still around. And I'm going to say for now, because we don't know what's going to happen. It looks like we're moving in some different directions. We don't know what's going on. But the NOx regulations are the biggest target right now, and especially how the trucks gather their information. The Biden era EPA did plan stricter 2027 rules, including the NOx and the greenhouse gases and the EV push. But that's what they're trying to go after. This isn't like they're trying to let you delete your truck. They're trying to go after that part of the 2027 tier of emissions. So in a simple way to think about it, the 2027 emissions is not canceled. You know, people say, oh, it got pushed back or it's on pause or it's stopped. That is 100% not accurate. Major parts of the 2027 emissions rules were rolled back. That part is accurate. The DEF and the NOx rules are gone. That is not accurate, at least yet. That's what they're discussing. What you'll likely see in the near future, though, is the DEF systems still intact, but utilizing the NOx sensors and not the quality sensors. The derates, too, also, you're going to see derates, but again, there's going to be a much bigger timer set to them, where now if you get below like 32.5% DEF quality, it's somewhere between 26 and 32.5. But if you get a DEF quality code like that, it can derate you and put you down really, really fast. That's what they're trying to get rid of, so that you can still make your delivery. You can still schedule a time in a shop that you choose to get it fixed properly. But this is not an excuse to delete. This is not a free hall pass to delete or get rid of anything. And also on the deleted trucks too. We can work on deleted trucks so far as we are not doing anything with the delete. So if somebody needs their overhead run, give me a call. If you need main and rod bearings rolled in, whatever it might be, give us a call. As long as we are not working on the deleted parts, we are good. But we do work on deleted trucks, because that was another thing. I talked to a lot of guys down at Louisville, and a couple guys come up and said, I was going to get my truck to get the overhead run or maybe put your dampener on or something, but you guys don't work on deleted trucks. Well, no, that's not necessarily. We don't delete trucks,
right?
But we do work on the truck. There's a big difference there. And I just wanted to clear the air on that, because I had a couple guys come up to me at Louisville and ask me about that. And we weren't aware of that people had that. We want to make sure that we are open for everybody to help everybody out there.
I think what probably created that was there are dealers that do announce that you can't bring a deleted truck on the property and they won't work on it. And there was a time where there was a lot more fear about that they were going to hold dealers responsible. And so I think that's where that came from. But you're right. You're not doing the delete. You can still work on other parts of the truck. I just looked at the board and I see Eric, what else do you have? I see we've got Dr. Jane on. She wants to go over some.
I'll bow out. I'll bow out gracefully right now.
Okay. Well,
Perfect.
And we can come back if we have other stuff, but I want to get Dr. Jane in. Dr. Jane, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. It was wonderful to see you in Louisville. You're looking well.
Well, thank you. It was great to see you. It's always good to hang out and get to spend some time with people.
Oh, absolutely. It was a real mood lifter. I thought it was a very positive overall, an inspiring experience. I just 3 days of feel good. It was wonderful.
You know,
Wonderful therapy.
I want to comment on that because I had forgotten that there was so much going on that I wanted to talk about. I forgot about that because that was year 36 for me. And one of the things about this show is it's a barometer of the mood in the trucking industry. And I've watched it over and over and over. You know, 08, 09, it was like a funeral at Matt's. The mood was so bad and so negative. The last couple of years have not been great. They weren't horrible, but they weren't great. This year felt very positive and uplifting. I noticed a big difference across the board in people's moods.
I did too.
Yes. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. They were long days, but they went by fast. And but just the reason I called in was that one, I wanted to sort of share with our audience, our listening audience, some of the takeaways in my mind, from my perspective, and two, I was listening to the preamble here and the information that you and Eric are sharing with the listening community about emissions and rule changes and the perception versus the reality. That's so valuable for not only our drivers, but me too. I mean, it really does play into a baseline knowledge that I have, but we always need to update our knowledge base. And that was extremely helpful for me as I talk to people on the road. So thank you for that. Thanks for doing your research and due diligence. And most of all, thanks for sharing. But yeah, it was a fantastic time at the booth. It's such an honor to be a part of the Pittsburgh Power team. I'm so proud to be affiliated with them. Eric, Bill, JR, and Jordan, of course, Bruce, who has certainly earned his reputation as a true leader in this industry. It's so wonderful to be associated with and friends with this team of diesel engine experts. But one of the things I wanted to share is that there were so many owner-operators who went out of their way to say hi to me and also to share their testimonials. I mean, Kevin, it was just one incredible testimonial.
Don't you just love that? I know. I listened to those and I absolutely just love that.
It was amazing. And, you know, I know the product is good, but the joy it brings to people's lives when they share their stories with me, it just doesn't get any better than that. And I loved it. It was great. And then I had two people enthusiastically say, here's my name, here's my number. Have people you talk to who are not on the Catalyst call me anytime. Have them call me. It was fantastic. So, but one of the takeaways, let's segue to that, and of course I welcome your comments and especially Eric's comments because this is your new product, Flashpoint. But a number of people said that they really like using the Flashpoint along with the max mileage FBC, and I think that stands to reason. That's what the product was designed for, and it's not a big cost adder, and makes so much sense to, you know, you're already using the Catalyst. Why not add the Flashpoint that covers all of the bases with respect to compensating for deficits in fuel quality and fuel properties. And so it was really nice to know that folks really do see a difference when they use both together, not only the max mileage, but they put the icing on the cake by adding the Flashpoint to their tanks as well. Any comments, Eric, of the same? I mean, you were talking to folks just like I was.
Yeah, absolutely. I shared a lot of stories about my old Power Stroke and using the max mileage and the Flashpoint together to see the biggest difference I've ever seen. And I even used the analogy of, if you've ever been around a 7.3 Power Stroke, you know that they're not smooth, they're not quiet, and they're not throttle happy. Well, mine was. And I was pretty happy to say that. And it actually performed like a decent diesel. You know, nothing against them. I still love them, but they are just not a powerhouse. Smooth and quiet, but mine was. It worked. It truly worked.
Great. That's great. Yeah, and so I'm just going to roll down three frequently made comments, and after someone says the same thing to me, different people saying the same thing to me 2 or 3 times, I lose count after that. But I do remember the gist of what they said and the differences in the comments. And so one frequent comment was, "I never even turn the key without max mileage in my fuel tank."
I think I heard that one.
I mean,
I think I might have been standing. I think I may have heard that one. Yeah, that sounds kind of familiar.
The second one I jotted down was, "I've driven this new to me truck with max mileage in the tank from day one." And that I heard more than once. And this is along with the rest of the story, which is, of course, their results. And typically it goes something like this. I've been X hundreds of thousands of miles, and I have had 0 active regens or no downtime caused by my DPF. And one gentleman went on to say, with one exception, he said, "I was forced to idle for 28 minutes, and the next day I had broke my record and had to do an active regen, or saw an active regen come up on the dash."
There you go.
So, that was a good data point, because 28 minutes of idling can deposit a lot of soot in your system. So that was a very good data point for me to have from the field. And so, I'm sure other people know that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dr. Jane, if you can hang around, because we just picked up 2 calls and it looks like they both want to talk to you. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump to some calls, because they're starting to build up on us, and I got to watch our time. So you want to hang out with us for a bit?
Sure.
Okay, good.
I would love to hang out with you. Now I'm going to mention my third thing real quick,
Okay.
and that was, if they open up the engine for some other reason, my mechanic couldn't believe how clean things are, and they wanted to know what I was doing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. All right. One thing before I go to the phones. There was a time a couple of years ago I mentioned a book. I may even go back and read this book again, which I almost never do. The title of the book was "The End of the World is Just the Beginning." And I did some research on the author, and politically we are about 180 degrees apart. But this book hit me, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought it's such an outrageous statement, but he had a lot of proof to it. And here was the premise of the book. There was a lot of stuff in the book, but the basic premise was, due to all kinds of things, lower birth rates, there was all kinds of factors. But ultimately, the reason the book was titled "The End of the World is Just the Beginning" is that the book predicts a major shift in our world economy. And here's what it was. The prediction was the United States Navy, for all these reasons, was going to stop protecting ocean shipping. And it turns out that we have this wildly crazy global economy where we ship stuff all over the planet. We ship parts from one country to another country. We put a couple things together. We ship that assembly to another country. They do something else to it. Then we ship it to all the countries it's going to go to. It is wildly complicated. And the author's premise was the only reason it works is because the United States Navy protects all these ships out on the ocean. And once the United States stops, and he was predicting that we would, he said everybody is going to have to reshuffle their entire economy, and you are going to have to get by on a lot less stuff from other countries. We just won't have all of this global shipping because it's too easy just to hijack an entire ship out on the ocean. So we would end up with, and then they went through all the countries, and it turns out if that were to happen, the place to be in the world is the United States. We have all the resources. We have everything we need. We are way ahead of everybody, whether it's oil, based economy, a solar system, kind of solar. We have everything we need right here, and Canada and Mexico, because we don't have to ship anything across oceans. We become one big economy. It was just such a wild premise. But listen to what Donald Trump just posted. This is interesting. I'm gonna read this. Quote, all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage, go to the strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore. Just like you weren't there for us, Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. That was Donald Trump. Basically saying, we're not going to help you in the straits. You're on your own. We're not going to protect your ships.
Well, that is a paradigm shift, and yeah, absolutely. We always appreciate your ability to connect the dots for us, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some dots there, that's for sure. Right before I go,
some dots there. Absolutely.
Yeah, before I go too deep down that rabbit hole, we will go to Colorado. Dwight, thanks for being patient. What's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning. Wow. Well, number one, we'll just start off with bragging about max mileage, because my 2016 Volvo, I guarantee you, is still running today because of it. And that don't mean I don't have problems. So when I bought this truck, because it's only new to me, and it was a high mileage truck, literally black goo was coming out of the end of the tailpipe. And the only reason I bought it is I'm thinking max mileage is going to help me with this, for real. But my truck other truck had blown up. I needed a truck, and this was cheap. TT. So I bought it. Took about 4 or 5 gallons right now, and about 250,000, maybe 260,000 miles. My tailpipe right now is bright and shiny like a new truck. So that's the good part. So now answer me this. Shouldn't everything from my turbo all the way out, shouldn't that be clean too? Because I have not taken that stuff apart to see.
It'll be clean. It'll just have a slight film of black on it, like black dust. But it'll be clean.
Okay.
Unless there was some...
Yeah.
There may be a deposit or two along the way that are just so hard that it's not going to take it out of there, and it has to physically be removed. But most of the time, it'll be spotless. I got to see pictures of a head that was taken off of an X15 or an ISX with 800 and some thousand on down at Louisville. And all you saw no buildup of any deposits. All you saw was, naturally, it's black. And that's it.
Okay, so, all right. Well, just to let you know, this truck had 900,000 miles when I bought it. And it's about $1.5 million right now. And it's running, but I get lots of codes telling me I got problems. Now, it comes and it goes, which is one of my weird problems I'm going to ask y'all. All right, I go every week for the last 5 years. I went from Baytown, Texas, which is almost ground zero to Denver, mile high. Once I get about let's say I pick up in Baytown, this thing is flashing, telling me regen, flashing, they're all crazy. I get about halfway up here, all that goes away. I'll be up here, no lights, no flashing, no regen, and it will ask me to regen. But if I say okay, it'll say parameters not met. So, I mean, I've only had to do like in 2 years, a little over maybe 2.5 years, I've only had to do about 2.5 hard regens. Because it always tells me it don't.
Have you had the ash washed out of the DPF?
Not physically, no. I haven't done that. I think it should.
You said there's a million watt on this engine?
Yes, little over 1,000,001 on this engine.
Yes. 1,000,001, and you bought it, and there was how many miles on it?
A little over 930, I think it was.
And so I think you better get into a DPF alternatives and get that thing cleaned out. And there's some good ones in Denver, and you're in Denver, so.
Yeah.
Now, when you're leaving Texas and you're going to Denver, you know you're climbing most of the time. And so you're working the engine a little harder than when you go from Denver back down to Texas.
But as I'm climbing, it goes away. It goes away. And it goes away
because you're making enough heat to make the system work.
Yeah.
That's right. And I have another comment for you with respect to cleaning, because you are using the max mileage on a regular basis. When you do go into a DPF alternatives and have that DPF washed out with their system, their cleaning system, their cleaning is so much easier because they're just washing out the powdery ash. There's no sticky, gooey black soot holding everything together. That's a much more challenging clean for them, for people who are not using the max mileage, than it is for people who are like you. So that's you're going to get some benefits on the back end most likely when you do get that clean.
There also could be one other issue here too. Baytown, Texas is sea level. It's 23 feet above sea level. Denver is 280. Your barometric pressure sensor, your map sensor, may be an issue as well, because the altitude you climb is strictly related from what signal that sensor sends your ECM. And that sensor that sends the signal to your ECM tells the ECM when and how to regen too. Because the more oxygen content you have, the more fuel it can give it. The less oxygen, the less fuel. So that will regulate other things as well. This could be a domino effect, all from a sensor as well. But Bruce, I think, is onto something also, like you're climbing the whole way, because literally you're going from 23 feet to 5280. So the heat from that is going to help reduce your regens and keep you out of a regen where you're coming back downhill the whole way. But also check your barometric pressure sensor, your map sensor. It may not throw a code. It just may be out of calibration. That it is bad. You may need to replace it, but it may be within tolerance of what the computer sees. But you may be showing 4,000 feet when you're just right outside of Baytown. So there may be other issues going on too. So maybe check that out as well.
Yeah, because barometric pressure, now it has good point for me when I get here, but when I get higher elevation, if I go back to Salt Lake City and go over 80, this truck does not like that. It does not like it at all. And then it'll go back into wanting to regen. So that might be something, that barometric pressure sensor. Now real quickly, I'm not on Flashpoint right now, so what will the Flashpoint do more for me?
Eric?
when I start.
The Flashpoint does a bunch of things. It's like a super fuel treatment is what it is. It's going to make the diesel fuel a lot better than what we have. And I'm going to pick on PACCAR for a second. PACCAR engines in Europe are built pretty much the same way they are over here. But if you talk to people from different countries, which I did last week, there was a group of gentlemen that came to the Louisville Truck Show from Germany. They were even wearing their leather traditional shorts and like their whole attire. And I flat out asked them, I said, hey, you guys have any PACCARs? Oh, yes, we have lots of them. Well, do you guys have any injector issues? No. But he said, but I know you do. He knew right away where I was going with that conversation. The federal guidelines for diesel fuel in America is a cetane level of 40 points. That's it. That's the bare minimum. And in all honesty, it's not great. It's just enough to get the engine to run, really. In Europe, it's much, much higher. It's like 51 or 52 points for cetane. And they don't have the injector problems over there that we do. And that's where we saw a call for this with the Flashpoint. It's going to have lubricity additives. It has detergents. It has water emulsifiers, which is what you want in a fuel treatment for a truck.
Right.
Because an emulsifier with the letter E actually pulls the water molecules apart, makes them smaller. They can just pass through and be burned in the combustion chamber. Some of the fuel treatments out there, which I did a small walk around at Louisville, I saw actually have demulsifiers in them, and they're advertising them for in the trucks. And I'm thinking that's the worst thing, because a demulsifier brings the molecules together to make them bigger.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I've heard you talk about that before. Yeah.
Yes. That was like, wow. I was kind of shocked when I saw that. But the biggest thing is the cetane improver. And cetane number is the speed of the acceleration of burn. So the higher the cetane you have in your diesel fuel, the faster the ignition. And that's what we want. We want a quick, hot ignition, because the hotter that flame is, the less particulate matter, carbon and soot, all the dirty stuff in there. And that's the whole principle behind the max mileage too. We want that to be a more efficient and effective burn on the fuel that you're putting in that combustion chamber. So if you mix it, there's two different ways you can mix the Flashpoint as well. There is a standard version, which is 1 ounce per 15 gallons, or there's like what we call a high performance mix, which is 2 ounces per 15 gallons. Now, in my old Power Stroke, which was the only diesel I had owned for the last probably 5-10 years, I mixed it the higher level, the 2 ounces per 15 gallons. That's where I saw the biggest difference on the engine being quieter, toning itself down, being smooth, a much better power delivery, throttle response was better, and even the power curve was more linear. Like, it wasn't like an abrupt, like, okay, we just hit 5 pounds or 10 pounds of boost. It was just more gradual power, like almost like you had a new throttle pedal in the truck. It made it a whole different animal, really. It was just a much more large engine.
I'm gonna do that when I get all this, because I own a 03 Power Stroke that I've owned since new. So yeah, that thing needs a little help.
I got a recipe help after the show.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Bruce.
What is your name?
Dwight. I'm Dwight. I'm the barefoot skier. Barefoot skier, and so.
Okay. Let me have your cell phone. Let me have your cell phone.
830-261-0096.
I think I remember that number. Okay. I've talked to you before. Hey, I have a feeling that you're going to keep trucking and not get this DPF clean, so I'm going to call you every couple of days just to remind you, okay?
and hey,
Okay.
Because then I want to see the difference. Then after you get the DPF clean, and you run it for a couple of weeks, I want you to call the radio show and tell us what's going on. All right?
I got him loose, Bruce. The board is full, and we have got to start moving on. We're going to go to Montana. Lyle, welcome.
Thank you. I got a question for Jane and for Bruce both. I've been looking at Molly S2, and its properties put in engines. Evidently, Toyota used to put it in all of their engines, and they do for all of their cabs, which they routinely run to 500,000 miles without touching the engine. I'd like them to talk about those properties of Molly, MOS2, and what it does in engines.
You mean molybdenum?
Yes.
So I'll throw in my 2 cents. It's just a friction modifier. There are other friction modifiers. It's nothing. It's not a miracle. Some oils have it, some don't. Some have a lot more than others. But I don't see any major difference in anybody's engine because they use moly or didn't. I mean, it's just one component in what can be very complicated additive packages, and it's a friction modifier. But I don't see it being any kind of miracle component.
Well, I understand that instead of being a surface lubricant, it actually impregnates into the metal.
Yeah, Dr. Jane, any thoughts here from the chemical side of things? I can't address that kind of stuff. What I can address are results. We've had oils with moly and oils without moly, and I see no difference in wear or life or anything.